So at that long dance, I had this question of wondering what it would be like to do this with all women. And it took me 5 years to carry that dream until Kurt and I moved to Port Angeles, Washington. We lived in a place called Stehekin between Grand Canyon and Port Angeles, which was Olympic National Park. And at Stehekin, we had to take a half-hour float plane ride or a 4-hour boat ride to get to our house. It was very remote. And I tried to interest the women there in the drumming, and they were kind of interested. We drummed for the harmonic convergence, for example. A friend of mine brought in 15 drums, and we drummed in the boonies up there. But it wasn't until I moved to Port Angeles that I found women who really, of their own accord, responded in their souls to what drum circles were.
Okay,
and that was...
For the people who will read this or listen to this that don't understand a lot of some of the things you're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
Because drum circles are popular now. It's
Yep.
kind of like a popular thing. Tell us more about the long dance. How does it start? What do you do? What's the purpose?
So, the long dance could be attributed to, there's a similarity between both what Western perception of a Sundance or in the Northwest longhouses would be the winter ceremonies where they drum, sing, and dance all night. And
They being
the particular tribes that practice that. So I would say it really, the source of it is indigenous culture. And what takes place in that is a gathering of a ceremony. There are different ways that it's enacted depending on different tribes. The long dance that we do in the Northwest, the Woman's Way long dance, is designed out of many different traditions. And I was gifted, for example, the way to do different forms of purification, from sweat lodge to moon lodge. Moon lodge is honoring women's menses time, our creation time. We have crone ceremonies that used to go on in the early years of long dance, which is the rite of passage through menopause. So we do life passages. We've been doing rites of ceremony or rites of passage, well, long before long dance, but in that particular community for these several decades. So when we come, we create the community together, we build our lodges, we build our gathering places, we dedicate our dance ground together, and then we have a day of purification. And that day of purification is to let go of the world as we know it, to set aside time for ourselves, to set aside time to go deeply inside, to be in this community, to wash ourselves clean of the burdens of our life, of our grievances, of our shortcomings, of our resentments, to allow us to come to a deep, deep place of receptivity to dance into our life what's next, the grace of what's next, the potential of who we are.
And you have an intention when you come to, do you?
We ask women to come with intentions, and everything that we're doing is building up to what we call long night. And we do ceremony on that night. We open the dance ground, and then we drum, sing, and dance and pray all night. We embody our prayers, our intentions for the next year. So, I know drum circles are popular, and drumming is really only part of what we do, but it's the power of that. And it's why I've been facilitating women's drum circles for 30 some odd years and doing women's talking councils for 35 years. It's the power of creating community. So those, to me, in my life work, are important tools, but they're not the whole focus of of what I do. They're an aspect of that. They're a primary aspect. So during that night, we're outside. If it's the full moon, we have this glorious, amazing place in the boonies. We're around a big bonfire. It's very primordial. It's very deep and rich. It's very ancient. And we have women of all religions, all walks of life. We have increasingly in recent years numerous veterans. We've been blessed with not only veterans of recent wars, but earlier wars. We've had women come 3 generations. We had a peer of mine bring her mom, and her mom recently passed, but it would be the same age as my mother, and then her daughter. So it's a healing place. It's hard to describe. It's not based on a particular this Native American or that or this African. It's really a culmination of many different walks, many different traditions. And so, for example, what we call the Moon Lodge or the Red Lodge is more in keeping with European ancestry, Celtic ancestry, Middle Eastern ancestry. But I can't tell you that I designed it around a particular this or that. The women who brought the Moon Lodge in the early years of Long Dance, and we have actually a red tent, a red lodge that was built by a woman. Her name then was Susan Oliver. She now, her current married name is Suzanne McCoy, and she had been a scholar of the women's mysteries that we would now known as Persephone or Kore, or the descent into the underworld that all women do in their lives. And it was built on the Mystery Lodge. So it's the blood mysteries. What are the blood mysteries? Well, it has to do with menstruation.
Okay.
So it's really building a women's community based on ancient mysteries, based on us as modern women, to instill a new connection to the natural world. Modern world is totally removed from natural world cycles, and it's our current greatness, and it's to me a current vulnerability, and we're not tuned into that.